Hello?
Hi.
Hello? Welcome to another Rider Cam TV video.
In the shed.
Into
Shed.
shed. And this week we're going to talk about preparing for a tour, but preparing for a tour if you're coming from outside the UK, in the UK.
Like a foreign person coming in.
Well, somebody that doesn't live here.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's what I meant.
Yeah, you know what we mean.
I'm not trying to be PC or anything like that, but you know.
Because we did a video that was really well received, didn't we, about touring in Europe and what to get ready and what to think about when touring. And somebody really kindly said, would you be able to do something specifically about if you're thinking about coming from another country to tour in the UK, what sort of things to think about? So we thought we'd talk about it.
It's pretty much the same as going to any place, really, I suppose.
Well, I think the first thing being is that we're out of the EU. And that's a very divisive thing for a lot of people, but we are. And that means that you need to make sure you've got over 6 months on your passport before you come in. You've got to be stamped in and you've got to be stamped out.
So if you're coming from, well, you're obviously going to come from France or the Netherlands, isn't it, as the only way and you can get now, or Ireland, I suppose. But for example, at the tunnel, you've got the Channel Tunnel and the ferries, the actual British border is in France now, isn't it? So you get stamped on the way in. So you'll get your passport stamped. That's important that happens. On the way back out, the French border is in the UK, going through the tunnel. Yeah. So they check it all there, but it's not difficult.
And the ferries, they guide you through it. So if you're at Bilbao, Cherbourg, any of those, Santander, specifically Santander, because we know that more than anything, they will lead you through the right thing. They'll ask for your passport, they'll stamp it, you'll get on the ferry, then you'll get the other side to either Plymouth or Portsmouth, and then you'll go through the customs control. And customs might ask you things like, have you got any knives on your bike? Have you got any gas cylinders? And providing you're honest, normally everything's fine. Knives they'll take away from you, even if they're in a toolbox. And they've even started asking now, have you got a multi-tool? Which is bizarre, because if you've got a toolbox on your bike with a multi-tool in it, they'll still have it away, which is really, really odd. So it's one for you, whether you say yes or no. I would suggest being honest. Going through customs, I've only had my pannier scanned once. They tell you to take a bag out and put it through a scanner. That was at Portsmouth going out, so it might not affect you. And I had those gas canisters for the headlight, and this guy grabs hold of me and says, "What's this?" And I said, "Oh, it's just air for the..." And everything was fine.
Sometimes they swab. Particularly at the tunnel, I know, and at Plymouth, they get you all in a big gang of about 10 bikes, and they go around. I find it really weird, because they go around with a swab, and they swab all the bikes with the same swab. Yeah. And you go, well, it doesn't show you anything, does it? You know, if you're going to do it seriously, you do one swab per bike, but groups of 10, and then they wave you off, you know, and that's where they ask you the questions.
I've never been stopped in Santander coming into the UK, but I know that people have been by Customs and Excise, or their version, and they'll say, how much cash have you got from their local currency that you're taking, where have you come from, where you're going. You just got to be honest with people, you know, and they're only doing a job. And bikes don't tend to get stopped as much as cars, because there's nowhere to conceal anything. You've just got panniers, and they might well say, open the top box and take all the stuff out so that we can have a look. They've started in some places with mirrors underneath the bikes and stuff, just checking, but you know, that's fine. It's good, because if they find something dripping, they'll tell you that your bike's wrecked.
Yeah, it's sometimes in the UK I've found more than in foreign countries, in Europe, you get asked to take your helmet off. If you've got a full face helmet, they will ask you to take it off, because they have to verify your face matches your passport. So if you turn up with a full face helmet on, they will expect you to take it off. If you don't take it off, they'll ask you. Yeah. Pull down any balaclavas you've got on or anything like that. I mean, let's be honest, you know, you just got to help them do their job. The quicker that's done, the quicker you'll get through. It's when you turn up there and you go, somebody starts whinging about taking the helmet off. Well,
they'll do the works on you.
Yeah. So just be sensible.
And things like your passport, don't ride along with it in your mouth. Because people don't want to touch something that you've got in your mouth. So I know Mark's got one of these handy little clips that he clips it on there. I keep my passport and stuff in my pocket, so it's readily available. The people at the booths know that you're on a bike, they're not like cars like, why haven't you opened it on that page? They'll give you a couple of minutes or as long as you need, and that's fine.
So that peg is really important, because when you go through ferries and trains, they give you a load of tickets. So what I do is I just peg it on the top here so people can see the ticket through the screen, you know, particularly when you're going on the tunnel, because it'll tell you what train you're going on and all that kind of stuff. You know, rather than having to keep stopping and get it out your pocket or hold it in your hand and you lose part of it, you know. So that's what the peg is for.
Yeah. So then when you get into the UK, what sort of things should you think about? So firstly, we ride on the left-hand side of the road, don't we?
Some would say it was the correct side.
I don't think it is. I much prefer riding on the right-hand side of the road. It just is more conducive to everything. I don't know why, but we ride on the left-hand side of the road. So you've got to think about roundabouts. We have roundabouts. So American friends don't necessarily have roundabouts. You've got like T-junctions and blocks and stuff. The roundabout, you have to give way to the person coming from your right, not your left, like in Europe. But there is no right of way. Nobody's got a right of way on any road. It's just the priority that they've got is over you. So you've got to make sure that you're on the right side of the road, or the correct side of the road.
So roundabouts, we're looking for gaps, not cars.
Yeah.
We're looking for a gap to get into to get on.
And it's the same as we say to all the clients that we go away with on tour, that when you're riding on an opposite side of the road, everything is just the same, but in your head it's really difficult to get your head around sometimes. So just take it easy and slow, and if you're at a junction and you have to turn right or left, just take a couple of seconds extra to get some references, like which side are the cars driving on, which will help you. If there's nobody there, then you just need to give yourself a little bit extra time to pull out on the correct side of the road.
And also, a lot of our ferry places are right in the middle of, well, they're obviously on the coast, but they're close. They're in urban areas.
Yeah, really built up areas.
You know, so it's quite difficult to come off a ferry. You know, if you come from, you know, Europe or something like that, or you know, whatever, to suddenly understand how the traffic is working. And the tunnel is not so bad because you're straight out on a motorway. But what I always say to people when we're going the other way, we're going from UK into Europe, is just take it steady. Don't get right up to the speed limit straight away. Just follow the traffic and see what the traffic's doing. And then you can understand, you know, how people work. You'll find driving in the UK is a bit manic, I find, particularly around the southeast. It's very little give and take. You know, most of our problems happen approaching the tunnel on the way back through Europe. I think, you know, once you get out into Europe, it's not an issue because there's bigger spaces. But in the UK, it's quite cramped. So just take it easy. Don't race off. And the speed limit's 70 miles an hour. Got to be doing 70. Follow some of the slower traffic, the trucks and that, and just see what happens, you know?
Yeah, and just get your bearings a little bit, really. Because on a bike, it's really easy to ride either on the right or the left. But it's also really easy to pull out and be riding on the wrong side of the road.
Yep.
I watched a YouTube video the other day, and it was this guy that was riding through the Picos, merrily riding down the road, and he put on this voiceover saying, "Have you spotted the deliberate mistake?" He was on the wrong side of the road for mile after mile and went round a corner, and there was a car there. Luckily, he got across okay, but these things happen quite regularly, and it's really easy to make a mistake. But if you make a mistake, just pull over, just settle yourself and off you go again.
Yeah. So speed limits.
Yeah, speed limits. So our speed limits are on motorways. So motorways are our 3 carriageway lanes, all 3 lanes or 4 lanes or 5 lanes, depends where you are, going the same way with a central reservation in the middle. So a Armco, some sort of barrier in the middle with the same lanes going the other way. That's 70 for motorbikes.
And we've got dual carriageways, which, you know, closer to town sometimes are down 60 or 50.
Yeah. But the national speed limit, so you might see, so for most of the speeds, so for 20s are coming in 20 miles an hour, not kilometres, miles an hour.
So our speed signs are circular signs with a red ring, a white background, black writing on it, and it'll tell you the speed.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we've got 20s that are in really urban areas and they're popping up everywhere, and it's really annoying on a motorbike to try and keep to 20, but they're 20s. Then we've got 30s that were the standard in villages and built up areas. They're still around. Some 40s, some 50s, and some 60s and 70s. Now 60s and 70s are a bit weird because the sign that dictates them isn't a sign a round sign with a number. It's a white and black sign, or it's a white sign with a black chevron going through it, and that's a national speed limit. So a motorway national speed limit is 70 for motorbikes. Dual carriageway, which is 2 lanes going in each way, but it must have some sort of barrier in the middle, like a central reservation, a massive grass verge, something that separates those carriages. That's 70 as well, because it's national speed limit. But you will find that some of those roads have got 50s or different signs on there, and then you've got to do what they say. On what we call our A roads, which are our main roads, but only one road going one way or one carriageway going one way and one going the other way, the national speed limit on those is 60, unless it's posted anything else. So all you've got to remember is do the speed limit that says on the sign.
My bike up.
No, well, they do wobble. Follow the speed limits that say on the sign, but if it's national speed limit, you've then got to think about what road you're on as to what speed that is.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, yeah.
Yeah.
A point to remember is if you come over and you've got a sat-nav, you don't have to change your sat-nav to miles per hour from kilometres an hour. Your sat-nav will work out without you changing anything. So, for example, our speed limit in a town is 30 miles an hour. If you haven't changed it from kilometres to miles an hour, your kilometres will say it's 51 kilometres an hour, whatever it is. I think it's 51. All right, so you don't necessarily have to change that, but it's just a point, because people get in all sorts of messes about switching their sat-navs over.
Yeah. Then we've got things like traffic lights. Traffic lights are very different in the UK, certainly very different than Spain, France, Germany. Our traffic lights have predominantly got 3 lights. You've got a red at the top, an amber, yellowish, in the middle, and then a green. And the sequence of the lights tells you what's going to happen, really. So red is you've got to stop. If it goes to amber and green, that's going to green, isn't it? Have I got that round the right way?
So we have green, and then it goes to amber, and then it goes to red.
Yeah.
You colour dyslexic.
Yeah, I was
So
going
it's
from
green,
top to bottom.
amber, red,
Yeah.
and then it's red, amber, green.
Yeah, so if you just see one amber, it's going to red, and that dictates you must stop unless you're going too fast or over the line, and it would cause an accident for you to jam your brakes on to stop because it's going to red. If it's red, you've got to stop. If it's green, then you can go if it's safe to go.
Yeah. And we also have, on big junctions like that, we have these yellow hatched areas. Okay. In London, they're a nightmare. If you stop in there, you're going to get fined. I think they're red as well in London. Don't know.
Oh, they've got red, double red lines where you can't park, and you can't park on pavements at all in London. And you mustn't park on them in London. You shouldn't park on them in the rest of the
So these boxes don't go in.
UK.
If you can't get out the other side, you can't go into it from here. So that's boxes. Also, with regards to parking, we've got some odd parking rules. But if you want to park your bike on the path, on the sidewalk, as people call it, you can't park it near to the curb. You have to park it close to the building, because if you put it on the curb, that's classed as an obstruction. So park it closer to a building so people can still get past it.
But the highway code says you shouldn't park on a pavement anyway, so you shouldn't park on there, or sidewalk, or whatever you want to call it.
Then we have these ULEZ zones where you'll have to pay for
the privilege of riding through somewhere.
Particularly in London, they've got this. Some bikes don't qualify, I think, in London now. Older bikes. So all you need to do is, the signs are everywhere, and it'll tell you how you can pay. You can just pay it by sending a text.
Yeah.
So don't get caught out, because the fines are prohibitive, I think, in many cases.
Yeah.
Which brings us on to drink driving.
Well, before we get to drink driving, there are some like peages, some pay to use motorways.
Yeah.
They tend to be around London, up near Birmingham.
Birmingham is one, yeah.
But they're really well signposted, and the same sort of system as anywhere else around the world, really, to go through. So if you're used to those, you'll be used to them. So drink driving.
Drink driving. Don't do it.
No.
Simple way, isn't it?
The way that I look, I've been to so many accidents and collisions and stuff where people have had alcohol. Even if they're not over the legal limit, all eyes look to them as being the person that's caused the accident, even if they haven't. That's not from authorities' point of view, that's from the general public, isn't it? It's a very taboo thing. People seem to think that they can get away with it. I don't know why, because it inhibits everything. And on a bike, you need all the concentration you can get. So the legal limit for alcohol is 35. I'll put it up there because I always get confused. Micrograms in 100 millilitres of breath, and then in blood it's 80 micro something, and I'll put it up there in 100 millilitres of blood. So that equates to probably a pint. But the thing is, your body processes alcohol in a very different way from one day to the next, from 1 hour to the next. It's all about how much you've eaten, how much sleep you've had, how your body's functioning. If you had half a pint, you may well be over the limit. If you've had 10 pints, you're going to be way over it, but your body might behave in a different way. So the simple answer is don't drink and ride.
Our advice to you is if you stop for lunch, don't have a beer.
Yeah.
You know, if you have a beer at night, make sure you've stopped early enough for your body to get all the alcohol through before you start riding in the morning, because I can guarantee it, you will get breath tested by the police. They ask you to blow into a machine. And also drugs is a bit of a problem in the UK with driving. We have a lot of drug drivers, and you will get swabbed as well, because they're big on that at the moment. So you're definitely going to get breath tested if you had an accident or pulled over or whatever. It's particularly early in the morning, but you will see a rise in the amount of people who are being drug tested now, and it's a swab on the tongue and that kind of stuff. So don't do it, fellas. You know, geez, it's dangerous enough.
And the thing is, you know, the police have got the power to be able to stop any vehicle on the road for any reason that contravenes anything.
Yeah. Just
basically,
this light keeps flashing on a PIR thing, so it keeps flicking on and off. With regards to breaking rules and things like that in the UK, it is legal to filter in the UK. And by filter, in the US they call it lane splitting. You can do it, but you've got to be safe about how you do it. What we say is, you go up to 20 miles an hour in traffic, then that's about it. You know, then become part of the traffic. You'll see on places like the M25, you've got people hammering past you, doing 40, 50 miles an hour, you know, in between traffic. It's dangerous. So it's legal to filter, but give people the opportunity to see you come in. So slow right down, put your main beam on, your hazard lights, whatever, in slow traffic, and just go crawl through easily. You know, don't force your way through.
And inherently what you're doing with filtering on our roads, because our roads aren't really well looked after, they're really not as great as other places in the world, and where you're filtering, you've got to look out for the paint on the road because it might be slippery. Where the cat's eyes are, the reflective things in the middle of the road that dictate the middle of the road, they're very often right there and they're bumpy. People don't tend to leave a lot of room for filtering. Some people actively try and stop you filtering on a motorbike, especially 4x4s and people in really expensive vehicles.
When you go to Europe and you get a traffic jam instantly, in places like Germany, it's a law that the traffic automatically goes to the outside edges of the lane. That's not a law in the UK. Some people do it. It's happening more, I think, now. But generally, they're just trying to see what's happening further along the road, and so the gaps are quite small. So don't try and force your way through. Just be a bit respectful. Let them know you're coming, and most people will pull out of the way. But you get the idiots who don't let you do it.
And I'm just thinking about the filtering, because that's some of the filtering we've done has been for hour after hour on the motorway. So on the motorway, we've got a thing called the smart motorways that they're trying to get rid of now because they're really not that smart, and they'll change the speed limits above the lanes and tell you whether with an X whether you can go in them. But predominantly on a motorway, on the very, very left hand side, you've got a really thick white line, and to the left of that is what we call the hard shoulder. And the hard shoulder is basically a safe place for you to be if you break down or have an emergency. It's not to stop for a cigarette or stop for a coffee or stop to wait for your mates because it's an offence to stop on a motorway. That's there for an emergency, for you to get a bit of safety and for emergency vehicles to get through. But if you do stop there, it's the most dangerous place on our road network to actually stop. We've had so many people die on bikes, cars, recovery people, been scat over because people haven't seen them and they veered into the hard shoulder. So if you break down on a motorway, hazards on, get over to the hard shoulder and get off your bike and go as far as you can, within reason, ahead of your bike in the same way you're travelling. You don't want to be taken out and your bike be okay, and then go up the verge and stay to safety and then ring for help.
get over the barrier or something
Yeah,
like that. On the smart motorways, it means, for example, there might be 4 lanes of traffic. If somebody breaks down, they close the lane down that the vehicle's broken down in. And that's part of the issue, because people don't look further than the bonnet and they go and run into the back of them. So it's a really dangerous thing. But you will get arrows that appear saying, red arrows saying, you know, change lane. And if you cross a red arrow, the gantries have cameras on them, and you will be fined for it. So don't cross the red arrow, and it's there for a reason, and there'll be a flashing speed limit. And also, a lot of these gantries have cameras on them now, which brings us on to speed cameras.
Nicely done.
Yeah, nice little link there. Speed cameras are everywhere in the UK. People don't like them. They say it's just a means of generating money. In the UK, you can have your GPS switched on to tell you where speed cameras are.
Yeah, and that's not an offence, and you won't get fined for it. It's
where in some countries the first thing they do is check to see if you've got your speed camera alerts on. So in the UK it's not a problem, but we have lots of different types of speed cameras. We don't have drones, I don't think, at the moment.
Oh, we have got drones to look at dangerous driving and that sort of thing, but that's like sporadic operations.
Yeah, so you won't even know when that's happening, so just be aware of that. Speed cameras, you go past it, it reads your number plate, you get a fine in the post.
Yeah.
And you'll get points on your licence if you're a UK resident, and fine or whatever. Okay, so you will get caught if you break the speed limit, and it's usually a flashing light that happens behind you. The police will do it, or they'll set up on a bridge over the road or something. You have speed camera vans that will get you, and they may be working in conjunction with other police up the road. So just be really careful. There's no need to, if you break the speed limit, you're missing all the glorious country.
Yeah, and we've got different sorts of speed cameras. So we've got a lot that have popped up of average speed cameras. So there'll be a town or a village or a road with yellow cameras, and there'll be sporadic points. It's not the average between this pole and the next pole. It's the average between this one and the last one, as well as the others. So watch your speed, because you'll just get a fine in the post. We've got...
You see people riding up to them, going over the speed limit, and they get to the camera and they slow right down again. And as soon as they've gone past the camera, they leg it on.
By that time, it's too late.
But the average speed is over the length of area. So you get them in villages now. A lot of villages have them. Roadworks, they have them all over the place, and we have a lot of roadworks.
Yeah. Then we've got... traffic light cameras as well.
Yep.
That because we have a problem with people not being able to see when it's red, even though it's the light at the top, and they just continue through. So there are cameras that get set off if you're heading through the traffic lights and they're on red. We've got we've got static cameras as well on their own, and they might be in the middle of the central reservation, they might be on the side, they might be pointing to you, or towards you, or away from you. They're predominantly yellow, and in our country we don't hide it. There's signs everywhere to tell you when there's going to be a camera.
So if you've been caught, it's because you've not read the signs.
I won't get on the soapbox too much, but there's really no need to speed everywhere you go. And for me, all these people that say it's a money-making exercise for the government, it might well be, but you've made a conscious decision as the driver or rider of that vehicle to break the speed limit. And you see it all the time. We're riding along to the speed limit, someone will overtake us, and there's a speed camera, and they'll brake, so they know what the speed limit is. It's just a conscious decision to disregard that. I don't agree with all the speed limits, but they're there, and it is what it is.
Which doesn't bring us on at all to
that's in your head.
Fuel and how you fill up. Right, on the motorways, there are service stations where they'll always have fuel.
Really expensive. It
is expensive to fuel on a motorway. If you come off, supermarkets, shopping malls have cheaper fuel, and people say, you can't buy supermarket fuel, it's not good for your bike. It's all the same stuff, fellas, guaranteed.
It's all made in the same
when
place.
You get a Sainsbury's truck pulls up in the big fuel distribution depot, it doesn't, a tank full of Sainsbury's fuel, it's just the same
I'll use this tap.
So motorways are expensive. Come off the motorways, find a shopping centre that's cheaper.
Yeah.
There we have obviously diesel's not going to be
that's usually on a black nozzle, isn't it?
Yeah. Green is petrol, and we have different types there's 95 and
98, but also E10 and E5, and I think in the UK they've been trying to get rid of E5 and just go to E10.
Yeah.
But it's totally fine. It's not the greatest fuel. It's not as good as E5 because there's more ethanol in there. Is that? But it's the same as you can get anywhere else around the world.
And your bike will take E5 or E10 anyway. E10 is a bit more expensive, I think, isn't it? So fuel. Now, when you come to pay for it, particularly people who are coming from America, I'll tell you now, very few people accept American Express in Europe. I know it says, you know...
worldwide.
Worldwide, well, it might be worldwide in America, but American Express is a problem in the UK. So if you're an American coming to the UK, you need to have a card that has a PIN number on it, or a chip and PIN that you can put over a machine and
do the wireless payment.
Wireless payment. So if you're coming over from America to the UK, think early and get one of those cards set up. You can buy prepaid cards. We use Caxton, FX and Monzo, which work all over the place. You know, you put lots of different currencies on them. The currency in the UK is the pound.
Sterling, Great British Pound, GBP.
You can't pay in dollars, you can't pay in euros. It's the pound.
Yeah.
If you're buying fuel in the UK and you're paying with let's say a foreign card, okay, always pay in the currency that is there.
So pounds.
So pay in pounds. Yeah. So don't say, convert it to dollars, because your bank will rip you off when you go and pay later.
Yeah, they will.
That's that. You will need, for documentation wise, you'll need to have a certificate of motor insurance.
Yeah.
An ownership certificate. In the UK it's called a V5, I don't know what it's called elsewhere. For the bike, if you've rented a bike in the UK, they'll give you all that anyway.
Yeah. And an MOT test, which is our yearly is the car roadworthy test. If you have that in your country, you need to make sure you bring that as well, and they need to be originals.
Yeah, no. So it's good to bring photocopies, but when the police stop you, or whoever may stop you, because we have an organisation called VOSA who do vehicle checks on people, show them the originals.
And they'll look at the National Insurance Database. So if you've got your insurance on your phone, normally that's okay, because if they ever suspect that you're not insured, they'll ring the National Insurance Database anyway, and they'll confirm or deny whether you are insured, and there's no getting around it. And the thing about in the UK that may be different to elsewhere in the world, that speeding, not having a licence, not having an MOT, they're absolute offences. There's no excuse for you doing that on the road. If you've done it, you will get punished for it. It's not something that, I forgot to get insurance, you'll have your vehicle taken away. It's just one of those things.
We also have a thing in the UK about number plate sizes. If you have a small number plate, a really small number plate on your road bike, okay, the police will pull you over for it. And I don't know how they will resolve that situation. But
normally for a number plate, it's what they call a vehicle defect rectification scheme. So they'll give you a thing that you have to go and get a new number plate and then produce it to the police station and show them that you've done it. But
also, altering your number plate is an offence as well. So I've seen people trying to change letters on there. Don't do it. Just bring your bike over with your normal number plate.
You're just drawing attention to yourself. Sounds like the police are going to stop every biker. They really don't. There's not enough of them.
No.
But we just want you to enjoy the country and enjoy the roads as they should be without worrying,
You have to wear a helmet.
Yeah, that's the only statutory bit of a safety kit you have to wear, which is bizarre. You have to wear a helmet.
It is cold in the UK so quite often, so dress accordingly, use a layering system. Your helmet can have a dark visor on it during the day, but it's illegal to ride with a dark visor at night. So if you have one of these iridium coloured visors, make sure you put a clear one on during the day. You can have a drop down sun visor, that's fine, because at night you'll be able to flick it back up.
Yeah.
You can wear sunglasses, and obviously you can wear glasses.
Yeah, and while wearing the helmet, there's no issues with you wearing earphones and stuff. Obviously you need to be able to hear what's going on, but like some countries, seemingly they sometimes have problems with people using moulded stuff with speakers in there. It's not an issue over here.
No, not a problem.
It's not an issue having your mobile phone on your handlebars, providing you're not touching it. And the same thing with your sat-nav. There's not a problem with you having your sat-nav there, but it is an offence to actually be using your sat-nav like in any other countries while you're riding. So just pull over and sort it out and then ride off. It's much safer, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Emergency vehicles. So in Spain, they've got a lot of vehicles with blue lights, but they've also got a lot of vehicles with yellow lights and sirens. In the UK, all emergency vehicles, apart from doctors, have got blue flashing lights. on the front, not blue and red. The red are usually at the back to dictate the back of the vehicle. They've got blue flashing lights on the wherever on the vehicle, flashing headlights, that sort of stuff. Doctors have got green lights on there. If you see them coming up behind you, pull over somewhere safe. It's not for you to rag the bike like hell and get out of the way. Don't stop on a blind corner. Stop somewhere really safe that they can get around you. It's better for them to arrive safely than not at all, and it's better for them not to be dealing with an accident that you've caused because you've panicked. Don't panic, just pull over, get out of the way safely and in a timely fashion really, but obviously safely. The markings on the road, they're very similar to the rest of the world. At a junction you'll have dotted lines in front of you and sometimes a solid line, but there's a sign saying whether you should stop if you've got to stop. It's a mandatory thing on a bike and you have to put your foot down because it's the only way you can show that you've stopped your vehicle. Give way signs means that you have to stop, and as soon as you've got a gap or it's clear to go onto the road you're turning onto, you can pull out. You've got dotted or spaced lines in the middle of the road. They're just to dictate the middle of the road, but we've also got solid white lines. If the solid white line is on your side of the road, it means you cannot overtake. So in Spain and France, they actually tell you when you can, and when you can't overtake. In the UK, the road markings dictate that. So if there's a dotted line on the other side of the road and not on yours, they can overtake into your lane, but you can't overtake, and it vice versa, it soon changes. And it also works on motorways, so you've got a lot of hashed markings in the middle of the road, and they're to keep the lanes separate. A lot of them have got solid white lines, and if you cross that, you're contravening a white line, which is a load of points on your licence and a fine. So just be really careful. You don't need to be in there. There's a load of rubbish on those hatchings because they keep the roads apart, don't they?
Yeah, the double white lines, the only time you can overtake on a double white line is if you've got a vehicle like a tractor doing 10 miles an hour.
Or a road maintenance vehicle.
Yeah, or, you know, people say cyclists, but cyclists don't travel at 10 miles an hour
No.
in my experience, okay? No. So just bear with it. People aren't... The rules changed, or were highlighted a few years ago, and people are getting more and more observant of them. So don't think you can try and leap past people, because if there's a unmarked police car in there, they will stop you.
Yeah. You can turn right, obviously. In Spain, you can only turn left off the road on over dotted lines where you've got these funny junctions that bring you about. I think they're really good. We don't have that in the UK. You can cross over a white line to turn right, or if you're directed by a police officer to do it, or if you're overtaking something.
We do have these white hatch boxes as well on lanes. They're not an extra lane for motorcycles. You quite often find HGVs, big trucks will actually use that for their trailer to go into, and that's where all the dirty stuff is, so you don't necessarily want to go in there.
Yeah, I suppose while we're talking about lorries and things, check out our video that we did about blind spots, because it's really eye-opening.
Please.
But when you get to a roundabout, now in Spain, a roundabout, you take your life into your hands. They go right round the outside no matter where they're going and indicate if they want to. In our on our roundabouts, the rule of thumb is if you're going anywhere past 12 o'clock, so straight across, or if you're going straight across anywhere before 12 o'clock, you don't necessarily need to indicate right, because you're not going right, and there may be a lane that dictates where you go. If not, you can use whichever lane you need. If you're turning right or going over 12 o'clock, indicate right and then indicate off and stay to the lane that you're in before you come off. And just check, because people are demons on roundabouts over here, aren't they?
Always do shoulder checks.
Everything. But we paint the picture that the roads and stuff are really bad. The roads are really good. There's lots of potholes to look out for, but that's a contentious issue. There are some amazing routes in this country to ride. It's really easy to get fuel. Fuel's all over the place. You said about the UK being quite crammed in comparison to somewhere like Spain or France, because they're quite big. Ordinarily, if you're running out of fuel and you put in a fuel stop on your sat-nav, it will take you to one that's open, not one that's shut down and they've still got it as an open one. There's fuel everywhere. It's really easy. You've got contactless payments. Mobile phone signal is really, really good. Apparently. In most places, get 5G in a lot of places now, which is really good. And it's a great place to come. So hopefully that's given people a...
5G, is that important, is it?
Apparently so. You know, apparently we've got to do things much quicker than we ever used to do. Weird, isn't it?
Yeah, very weird.
But so, come to the UK, don't be afraid. Hopefully that's given you some tips. It's a great place to be.
Yeah, and if you come in, give us a shout.
Yeah.
Let us know.
Especially if you're coming down to the pointy end, which is Cornwall. Give us a shout if you're coming down.
If we're available, we might come out with you.
Yeah. So leave a comment if we've missed anything and we'll try and address it at some point.
Yeah.
God. Yeah, we might. Anyway, if you like the video, give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, all that jazz, and we'll see you in the next video.